Hey everybody, Garrett here. I have my sister Emily.
Hi.
We're going to talk about things.
Cool. I like talking.
All right, so we don't. I have a general topic that I told you about, but we don't necessarily have to stick to it. We can start with it, and then if you have any thoughts you want to say, like don't feel restrained, like just say whatever you want.
Aye, aye, Captain.
But anyway, I figured we talk about. Um, I personally feel like there's a lot that I can't live up to, and be like a normal person.
Mm.
And to basically just live the default life that gets pushed on people. And that's kind of vague, but
Oh no, I get you.
yeah.
I get you. Yeah, I kind of agree with that because I'm kind of like your barrier to that. I'm the more normal of us two, even though I wouldn't really call myself normal or like I wouldn't say that I'm living that like default life either. But I do notice that like I also get like tried people try to push me into that kind of default life as well. And it makes me wonder like why things are the way they are because it got to a point like how old are you now? 20, you're
7
27. You're 27 now.
and a half.
And oh, and a half. Look at you. But yeah, a lot of people have like kind of stopped giving you crap for it because it's taken them 27 and a half years to understand that like you're probably not going to do most of those things, but that's okay because you're doing what you can.
Honestly, I've noticed that.
People don't bother you as much about it anymore. People, when you were like 17, 18, everybody was like, he just needs to get a job. He needs to get out there. He needs to go talk to people. He'll get over it.
Yeah. I wonder though if that's because if they accept it or they just gave up.
You know, it could be a bit of both, but honestly, is either really. I'd take either, you know?
I mean, honestly, I do like not being
Bugged about it every time we go see a
accosted.
family.
Yeah.
It used to be like every single time we'd go see our immediate family, they would be asking you questions about what you're doing and what you've accomplished since the last time that they saw you. And you're just sitting there like, I accomplished living.
Hmm.
I am here. That is my accomplishment. Yeah, because that always bugged me too, because I've understood for like a long time. I think I kind of understood it like way before our own mom understood like what your life was like because I never pushed you about those things. At least I didn't intend to. Who knows? I was a bit of a brat in my past. I might have said some rude things. But I'd like to say for the most part that I've been like a big supporter of you just, being what you can. And it's just yeah, cuz that always bothered me cuz I'd even have like people that I know and they're like, "Oh, like for instance, I started a new job recently." And people have asked me about like my home life and I'm like, "Oh, I live with my brother. I live with my older brother." And they're like, "Oh, how old is he?" I'm like, "Oh, he's 27." And they're like, "Oh, what does he do?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, he just he stays at home a lot, you know. He keeps the house clean and, he takes care of the cats and he likes video games." And then they kind of give me this look, and I'm just like, what business is any of this to you? Like, what does this have to do with you? Like, you asked me a question, I'm telling you honestly, and like people almost feel sorry for me, and I'm like, why? Why would you feel sorry for me? Like that, it has nothing to do with me. It's not an inconvenience to me that my brother doesn't leave the house much. Our home life is like pretty good. We've taken care of this house for like 2 years by ourselves. Like it's just me and you. So like we don't have any problems. And I just don't understand the pity that people give. It's like, because that's what upsets me the most with like all these obligations and expectations is that when I reach out to someone to try and get like help or like a perspective on something, all they give me is pity. And I'm just like, I don't want your pity party.
Yeah.
I want your help. If you're not going to help me, what's the point of me even telling you any of this? Because it's none of your business, really, unless you have something to give me for this transaction that we have, you know, brought together. That's why, like, to move into the main topic you were talking about, like, our biggest problem right now is housing because we live in an affordable area, but it's like, I mean, it's habitable. Like, we're not destitute or anything. But I wouldn't call it, it's like barely meeting ideal, you know? Like, it's just one of those places where you sink money into it to keep it habitable and livable, and then it just never stops, you know? And we've been trying to, you know, reach out and get help. Like, we've even been trying to use resources because I work full time at a Starbucks, and then my brother gets income monthly, but it's not enough. And I feel like a lot of people experience this. Like, almost everybody experiences this, especially at our age. It's hard to live, and yet there's expectations put on you that you're supposed to graduate by the time you're 22. You're supposed to get a house by the time you're 25. You're supposed to be married by the time you're 30. You're supposed to have kids as soon as you get married. And it's like, how is anybody supposed to do any of that? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and tying into the expectations, I feel like it's a very real thing where people have this kind of preconceived notion that everyone else has access to the same information that they do. For instance, if you go to, I don't know, if you go to some kind of consultation for assistance, they won't explain anything to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they won't tell you how it works. They'll basically tell you nothing. Oh yeah, this program, you do that. And it's just, well, how? Well, you just do it. And it's like, well, how though? Well, what are you, stupid? You just do it.
Yeah, and like, I think you used to feel bad about that because for a little bit, like, I wasn't stepping in to help you with these kind of things. Like, especially when we were a bit younger, you did feel stupid because you felt like you were the one that didn't know what to do. It would make you feel worse because you felt like everybody else knew what to do. But then I started getting into that crap with you, and we're just sitting here like, what is, I don't remember exactly what it was, but you brought something to me, like some paperwork or something, and you were like, Emily, I don't know what they want. Like, what do I put here? And I'm looking at it and I'm like, heck if I know. I don't know what this is. And that's where it kind of like, it started to become this realization that it's not just like this ableism that's keeping information from those who need it. It's not that it's only inaccessible to people who have a harder time with like social expectations, physical expectations. It's everybody. Like, I don't understand how these people in these offices can sit there and look at you like you're the most pathetic and idiotic little thing that's ever stepped foot in their office, and yet they took 5 years of like school or something to understand this information. Like, what happens? What clicks in somebody's brain from where you have to go from like learning a trade to looking down on people that don't understand how that works? But that's kind of like going to the dentist, and then your dentist starts spewing this mumbo jumbo about like the names of all the teeth. Like, you're supposed to know what that is. And then he looks at you like, oh, you poor little thing. You don't know what a bicuspid is. Oh, you stupid little. Are you imagining our dentist doing that?
He's too nice to do that. He would never.
But yeah, it's the same thing. It's like, I don't understand. I forget what the band's called, but it's like the "Why Can't We Be Friends" guys. That song. You know, why can't we just help each other? Why does society have to be like that? Like, why would you not want to help somebody? If I was in a position like that, like if it was my job to inform people about things that were difficult to understand, I would sure as heck do my best to help every single person that came to me for advice. And I just don't understand why other people aren't like that. Do they not understand where they came from? Like, these people, can they not understand that people need help? Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. And to be honest, I actually do kind of understand where that can come from. Because I think it's an easy trap to fall into. For instance, I've been playing Dark Souls, and the hardest thing about Dark Souls is learning how to play it. Actually playing it is super easy. Like, it's not that hard of a game at all. But like, now that I know a lot about it, I do think that there would be some temptation that if I watched a new person play it, I'd be like, God, unequip your armor to get to get your weight stat down so you can roll faster. And God, you can parry that attack. What are you, stupid? It's like, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, it's an easy trap to fall into. I do agree I don't see how people can like stay in that trap. Because even if I fall out of it, I can still remind myself, yeah, but I was a beginner. I didn't know about this stuff.
Yeah, it feels like a natural kind of progression. Cause like, especially because I've had problems with like medical insurance, like very recently. It's like, it almost feels like sometimes they make it more difficult to understand because like, I'm not gonna get like deep into it, but if you know what I'm talking about, then you're gonna instantly know. I have a medical insurance in North Carolina. It was for my like entire life up until this past year or two. It's been like simple. Like this is an insurance, you can use it these places. But now they've like split it up in the guise of making it more accessible and like, oh, well, you get these certain things under these certain packages and then you have to pick one, but we're not going to tell you which one you need to pick based on what you need. We're just going to make you pick one, and if you don't pick one, we're going to randomly assign you one, and whoops, you can't get your medicine now because the plan we picked for you doesn't work with your pharmacy, so you're gonna have to file paperwork to change it. It's just kind of things like that where it kind of does feel like things are against you, and it's really easy to get down about it. Sometimes it just gets to that point where you're like, well, fine then, I just won't. I just won't. I'm not gonna play your game.
Yeah, I do agree with what you said. I don't think it's a conspiracy either, because I don't know if you call it a meme or just accurate advice. Pretty much everyone who's filed for disability knows they are going to deny it the first time. It's like borderline like automatic. I don't think they even look at anything.
Unless you like resubmit it.
Yeah, you have to appeal it.
Yeah.
I think they do that specifically just to like keep people out, unless you got to have tenacity.
I thought you were about
Like,
to say tinnitus.
well, if you had
you gotta have tinnitus.
if you had constant tinnitus, that would be like a disability.
I think that is considered a disability. I think about that sometimes. Sometimes I get a ringing in my ear and I'm like, oh my god, what if this never goes away? And I'm like, my life would suck.
But yeah, my first disability claim did get denied. And then we appealed it, but there was no new information. They already had all the medical records. They already had testimony from my psychiatrist and the current therapist and all that good stuff.
But yeah, like I remember when you guys were trying to get that paperwork done, it took like so much. Like it was a lot of paperwork. It's like were you finished with your thought? I don't want to interrupt you.
No, I was just going to say I honestly have blocked out most of the process. I don't remember.
Well, you know, the one good thing about disability is they paid you for what you missed from the first time you applied. So that's kind of nice. That was good news when we heard that. We were like, "Oh." Yeah, cuz like I have a friend that needs to apply for disability, and this just kind of like another case of like people not being able to get the help that they need, because like we were fortunate enough to I don't know where our mom got the information from, but she worked in the medical field. She was a nurse, so she had like information about these kind of things. Like when we needed to apply for medical insurance, she knew where to go to get the paperwork. When we needed to apply for supplemental pharmacy insurance because our regular insurance wouldn't cover everything, she knew where to get the paperwork. And then when you needed to file for disability, she knew where to go to get it all together. Like,
actually, she didn't.
Well,
I was going to mention that when we were talking about getting help, my favorite therapist ever was the one who actually brought up the disability and helped me through it. It didn't just like give me links online and say, "Oh, this is the disability website," and just take a look at that, I guess.
Just stare at it for a couple hours.
No, she actually like went through it with me. She helped me call them. She helped me talk to them and get them information and stuff. So I don't think our mom helped a lot with that particular thing.
Well, I do wish there support.
I do wish there were more people like that therapist.
I know, finding a good therapist is hard. Boy, howdy. Don't we know finding a good therapist is hard. But yeah, we had that help. And I have a friend who like doesn't have any help at all. Like she has very similar problems to what you have, not identical, but you guys share some similarities. But she is from like a really poor family. She's She has no medical insurance. She can't get diagnosed. She can't apply for disability. She can't get medication. She can't get help because, well, the fact that she basically has no money. If things went sour, she could possibly be homeless or like rehomed. And the fact that no one in her family will help her. And it's just like another case of people suffering because they weren't dealt a better hand at life. And it's really unfortunate. Like, I've tried to, I mean, I have helped her throughout the years. Me and other people that know her have helped her a lot. She's grown a bit, but like, she still needs that help. Most of the time, and I don't really agree with it, but it's because that me and Garrett have struggled so much that I have this sort of mentality where I'm like, you can't stop. Like, this is what you need to do. And if you don't do it, things are never going to change and you're just going to suffer more. That's my attitude on a good day. Other days I'm like, I don't even care right now. Like, I just can't be bothered. I'm just gonna watch Impractical Jokers and forget about my troubles. But
Same.
yeah, man,
Same.
same.
I'll build off something you said like keep going, don't stop. I think that's all well and good. I think you really don't have any other option rather than just not. It's like one or the other.
Yeah, I do feel like that kind of like attitude is honestly, I don't like it. It's like it's easy for me to have that attitude when it comes to other people, like trying to help them and like being like, "Oh, well, please don't give up. Don't give up. You can do it. Come on. You can do it." But it always puts like a sour tint on things for me, especially these past 2 years with like what we've dealt with. Like sometimes I'll like explain things to people and they'll be like, "Oh wow, you're so strong. Look at you." And I'm just like, "Oh, thanks. I have no choice." Thank you.
Yeah, that's something I hate it when my therapists tell me that oh, I'm so strong, I keep going.
And the alternative.
Okay, like what else? I'm not really doing that much. Then like I get that I could technically just sit in bed all day and do literally nothing. I don't know. Praising somebody for doing the bare minimum just seems kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like another video game analogy, that'd be like praising somebody like, "Oh, you beat the tutorial level 100 times. Good for you. You did it."
Sometimes I feel bad feeling that way because a lot of people mean it like genuinely. I think I mentioned to I unfortunately work with a lot of older people at my job who have to work there for a second income. And I've talked to them about some of the things that I've gone through because they're older, wiser than my younger little high school age coworkers. And they'll be like, "Well, if there's anything you need, anything at all, it must be tough. You're doing so well." It's like you don't mean that. You don't. I'm not going to call you at 2 in the morning and say that I need you for something. Like, that's. Heck, I can call you at 2 p.m. and ask you for something, and you probably won't do it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I get your intention behind it, and like, I appreciate it, but it's almost hard for me to find it genuine because people don't mean it.
Well, I mean, it's not genuine.
I think
I think
there's
that's
good
the point.
intention behind it, though. You know?
I mean, that's good intention. But it's like telling someone if they're having trouble with, like, I guess fitting in any regard. Telling them, oh, just be yourself. Well, that's useful if yourself is, like, outgoing and pleasant to be around. But if you're not, then
It's almost like sometimes I wish people would tell me that they don't know what to say. Because I feel like that's what happens, you know?
yeah, exactly. I used to be kind of, well, I guess I am still a little bit sometimes. But I used to be a little bit more bitter when people would say things like that. More so online, because I don't really get that very often in person. But like online, people say stuff like that. And I used to be kind of bitter about it. But I try to remember that they must be living a good life if they're like that ignorant about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's hard to go through these kind of problems and then come out the other side and then tell somebody vague, generic advice afterwards. And like, at least not feel bad about yourself. I say like, oh, just keep going and yeah, you'll make it. I don't mean that, but I don't know what else to say. And like I don't get the feeling that most people feel that way. I think they feel like oh, I want to help. I want to feel like a good person, but I got my own problems to deal with. Whatever.
Yeah. I do understand that. And when people come to me to like confide in me or like ask for advice, I don't give them generic stuff like that. Like I've had people come up to me and being like, "Can I talk to you about this? There's something that's really bothering me." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah." And then they explain it to me and I'm not sitting there like, "Oh, it'll get better. It's okay. Life finds a way. It'll work itself out." I just listen because a lot of the times people just want you to listen. And sometimes that's what frustrates me the most. Is because I don't feel like people listen to me. It's like I don't want you to do anything. I don't want you to say anything. Just listen and tell me that you hear me. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I do that to people. I'm like, I hear you. Yeah. That sounds hard. I understand.
I do have that problem though. I don't like listening to problems and not trying to fix them.
Yeah, I feel like because you want to help,
Yeah, I want to try to fix it.
Yeah, but if you can't, I feel like honesty is like the next best thing because I feel like people appreciate it. They appreciate the honesty because they probably feel the same way we do. They're like, well, don't say it if you don't mean it. That kind of makes me feel better about it. Even when you're not like connected to the problem or if you genuinely just don't feel like engaging in the problem that this person is having, I feel like just saying that you're listening is like the next best thing. And it will still probably make them feel better without you having to put any like effort into it, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Because sometimes putting effort into conversations is hard.
Tell me about it.
Oh, yeah, huh?
Tell me about it.
Yeah. And that, I think it kind of loops back around to like the very beginning of what I was talking about because I was saying that like people have stopped like forcing that kind of like default life onto you. And sometimes it makes me really bitter. And it doesn't make me bitter towards like your situation. It makes me bitter towards those people because then they come around and they're like, "Oh, when are you going to finish going to school? Are you seeing anybody? What are you up to? This and that. Like how fantastic is your life right now, Emily?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Like I'm just I'm just a wee bab trying to
I thought you said I'm just a weeb.
I'm just a weeb."
Well, that's true.
Cause like I don't feel all that normal. Like I feel kind of like I feel like I struggle to fit in places, and it's like it's acceptable for someone who feels that way so much that it's debilitating, but it's not acceptable for someone else. Like I get those expectations. You had those expectations pushed on you, and you struggled through it, and eventually they stopped for whatever reason. But then it hasn't stopped for me yet. Maybe when I'm 27, people will give up. It's just kind of it's difficult, and I feel like a lot of people my age feel that way because coming into like a new environment, I've learned a lot about people, and it's helped me realize that like nobody cares. Nobody cares what you're doing. Everyone's too busy worrying about themselves. It's like everyone feels like they don't fit in anywhere, so you don't feel as much pressure to overcome it because you're like, oh well, they feel just as lost as I do.
I've never felt helped by that. I don't know if I've gone over that in a video yet.
Hmm.
I feel like I may have. I don't feel helped at all when people tell me, "Oh, people don't care. Like they're focused on what they're doing. They're not going to notice you
Yeah,
fumbling over a
that doesn't
word or
help in the
being
long run.
embarrassing or like cuz you know, it's a hard thing to explain,
It's your brain that does
but
most of that gymnastics.
I guess so. It's not that I care so much about what other people think. It's that I care about how I am.
Yeah.
It's like someone can think like, "Oh, that guy's weird," and I don't care. Like I care a little bit, but it's not the biggest problem. It's that I think I'm weird.
Yeah, it's your own like perception of yourself that is it's very fragile. Your self-perception. Probably without even your knowing, like it can just like flip on you and you can all of a sudden feel like an alien. You're just like, why am I the way that I am? It's wrong and I don't know how to fix it. Oh my god. you know?
Yeah.
It's difficult.
And I think we're gonna wrap up here in a minute because it's gonna be a lot to edit.
Oh yeah.
God.
Give you some work.
But anyway, I think that's why it's interesting, us talking, because I've said it a lot, and I'll say it again. You are like a less severe version of me.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's interesting to kind of play off each other like that. Because I think we both understand quite a bit about each other, even though we have like a slightly different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's pretty interesting. Do you have any final words, final remarks?
It's about the little things, you know? Your life may suck. You may be about to lose your job, or your house, or your family, or your dog, or anything. But, you know, just go watch a TV show that you like and go get some McDonald's or Burger King if you are disgusting. And just have a good time. You know, don't think about it too much, because if you do, you're gonna have a rough night.
I agree.
Seal of approval.
Well, thank you, Emily, for stopping by to my room that's like 20 feet away from your room. I know it was a long trip.
Yeah, I had to carve a lot out of my schedule to be here, so I hope you're ready to compensate for that.
I'll buy you some. I get some Longhorn.
Oh my god.
Anyway, yeah, I think it's been a good talk. I think any of you guys watching, if you like Emily, then that's pretty cool. If you want Emily, if you want her back, you should leave a comment, because I think we can do more of this. Like, it's pretty nice. It's much easier.
I like to hear myself talk.
My God, it's much easier to do this than talk to myself.
Yeah, you remember his unedited video? How painful that was?
Oh God.
To watch.
Oh God.
You just put me in the room and that doesn't happen. A little bit, but not much.
Yeah, it's a big difference. Anyway, well, I guess we'll end. Thanks everybody, and bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye. Have a good day.